Hello and welcome to today's video on the Red Dragon. Now this one is going to be a little different to my usual sort of video, as I normally write down a script of everything I want to say in a nice concise video. But because I'm short for time, I've written down all the items I think you guys should be going for, and that'll be for each type of fighter. And then I'll be briefly talking about why you should go for each one. So because this video will be a little bit more thrown together, you might have some questions by the end of this video, and if you do, please make sure to leave your comments down below and I'll do my best to get back to you, even if this is the next time that the dragon comes out in the future. And this list will be quite long and great for every type of player, so it would be great if someone could put timestamps in the comments about each section of the video, and the first person to do this correctly will not only be pinned to the top of the comment, but I will actually add you into the description of the video as well, and your name will be next to it to give you some recognition. So thank you to whoever does that, as that would be amazing to myself for this video, and especially for future videos as well, if you wanted to get involved in that way. Right, so let's now take a look at the items, and I'll start off with the tanks and work my way through the groups, but I will also have alternative items along the way for people that are throwing 10 and below if it seems like it's required, as some items won't be as great unless they're put into certain sets. So starting off with the tanks, we'll have a look at the Elven Warrior Playmail. This armour is going to be amazing for keeping someone alive, whether that's your archer with really high damage per second, or it could be a tank if you want to have someone that's super strong at staying alive. This armour can increase their magic and physical armour, and also give them maxed increase in health, so this would be great for any throwing level, including throwing 11, considering they've been increasing the maximum health of all your fighters. The next choice would be the Power of the Sea Playmail. Now this one is in second because it is still a really good item to use, but you do need the Rune of Tenacity on it. Now this rune allows the fighter to now gain 35% of its max health back once it gets critically low, so again this will be great for any throwing level, especially if you're throwing 11 with those really high maxed out health fighters. Now this will still be good for anyone that's thrown 10 and below, and that's because it will still stun people nearby, and the max health is still going to be around the same sort of level as the enemy fighters. But let's say you haven't got any runes available and you are throwing 10 or below, then the next best item I would recommend will be the Turtle's Indestructibility Playmail. This item allows the fighter to drain health from 3 nearby enemies, which will be at this set value amount. This item though isn't so good at throwing 11, and that's just because that the item's health can only drain a set amount, it's not based on a percentage, and eventually teams just get higher and higher, meaning this isn't really as effective as what it used to be. Now moving on to the tank's weapons, and the best item I think you should be using is the Elven Warrior Sword. Now this item should be seen as more of a supportive item, but because this affects the whole team, it technically could go up to 10 people at a time, especially if you're into expeditions. Now this allows your whole team's next attack to deal 250% more damage, and the sword wielder can do 50%. These numbers do go up slightly by I think 20% when you put them into an ancient set, but the main ability is going to be helping out the whole team. This still makes it a very valuable item at any throwing level. Let's now say you've got a Legionnaire or Nameless King, then the item you're going to want to get is going to be the Captain Hook Spear. This item can be used at any throwing level, it doesn't really matter on that part, as it does have increased attack speed compared to most other spears, and the damage you're going to be doing is still going to be great. And the reason why this is more suited for people that are throwing 11 is because that it reduces the enemy's healing by 50% for 5 seconds. But let's say you're now looking for a sword instead. This item would be the Power of the Sea Sword, and I think this will be great for anyone that's throwing 10 and below. And the reason why throwing 11 isn't a good option with this weapon is because the splash damage is rather weak, especially when the max health of fighters keeps on increasing. But at throwing 10 or below, it's kind of hard for them to get out of hand, meaning this item will still be great for stunning the enemy and dealing some damage at the same time. Moving on to the Mage's armour now, and the first item will be the Phoenix Wisdom outfit. Now pretty much every enemy team has some sort of resurrection, meaning this item is always going to activate, which is going to be fantastic for you. So it doesn't matter who this is for at any throwing level, it's going to be an amazing choice. The second option for your Mage's armour, and that'll be the Ancient Wisdom outfit. This allows your fighter to heal back some health when an enemy dies, and obviously that's going to happen. So you want to be using this on any of your mages that have a really high damage weapon, whether it's an insta-kill ability or if you actually have the Ancient Wisdom wand, which we'll come back to later. So the last choice for the mages is an option that I've actually not tested myself, and that'll be the Celestial Guard outfit. On paper, this item should deal a lot of damage to the enemy, as it will set a charge onto one of your fighters, and then anyone that hits that fighter will take 40,000 damage at throwing 11. And this is before it's been made into an ancient set, so those numbers are already pretty good. Apparently this has up to 5 charges per time, and then it will be wearing off until it can reset again, but either way that sounds like a really good amount of damage, so if you're looking for something like that, then this could be the choice for you. Now that we're moving on to the Mage's weapons, the main weapon I think you guys should be going for is the Ancient Wisdom Wand. Either way, this item deals a great amount of damage, but the main thing that you're going to want to have on it is the Rune of Wisdom attached to it. When the rune is attached, it basically means it doesn't just hit a single fighter, but it hits all the fighters around it. This normally means the mages behind the tanks, meaning you could be hitting many people at the same time, making it a fantastic choice. This Rune of Wisdom anyway can be used on any type of mage weapon, increasing the stats in those ways, but I find that the Ancient Wisdom Wand is the best with the Rune of Wisdom attached. Now this next one doesn't need a rune attached as it already deals a lot of damage. Now that'll be the Snowflake Scepter, and I've always noticed this item can deal a lot of damage to the enemy, plus the bonus is that it actually happens quite quickly. I know that it says once in a while, but I find that it happens a lot quicker than my other mage weapons, making this a really high damage item that can be used at any throne room level. Obviously if it's made into an ancient set, then the base number goes up plus spell power, so anyone should be looking to use it. The last item for the mages is the Concentration of Wrath Orb. This item is a bit specific because it can be used at any throne room level. You might be wanting using this on a tank to keep them alive as it is an insta-kill ability at the same time, but you might want this on a mage, so it is up to you on how much spell power you think you can get from it. It's just a good damage item in general if you're looking for that sort of route, and the insta-kill ability is a nice addition to this item. Moving on to your archers now, and there are a few different potential choices, so I'll quickly run through them. The first one is going to be the Angel of Justice gear. This item can be great for assassins, whether you're building a Shadow Fighter or Legionnaire, this is going to be a great choice for them, but at the same time it can be used at any throne room level because it is reducing 40% of the magic damage taken. And since lots of people are using that Ancient Wisdom Wand as I mentioned before, this is going to absorb a lot of that damage straight from the get-go. So this will make it a great choice for people who want to have an assassin in their team. Now this next one is what I recommend to put on pretty much any type of archer, and that's because it can steal a percentage of the enemy's max health and damage at the same time. So pretty much as the fight gets on longer and longer, your fighter is going to be staying alive even longer as well, making any high damage per second archer survive longer than they would have done without this. Another good archer armor for keeping your fighter alive is going to be the Archer's Patron equipment. This one in itself increases all the damage per second by 25% for all your archers on the battlefield. It can also enhance its own damage by a set amount and its max health again by a set amount for each unit killed. The reason why I say a set amount is because it will be different for yourself depending on the throne room level, but basically it will increase its own damage and max health for each of the enemies killed up to 5 times. So it's very similar to the Lord of Seas gear, but I find this one's a little weaker because it takes a bit more time to get going. Now this next option could be amazing if you want to really have a high damage fighter, and that'll be the Space Ranger gear. Once in a while, this person will sacrifice 20% of their current health and enhance it by 70%. This also goes the same for their crit over 4 seconds, so this means this person will have really high damage, but obviously you're losing that 20% health, so this is for people that want to be taking a risk, but also be increasing the damage at the same time. Now with the archer's weapons, there's going to be 2 types I'm going to be covering, and that'll be crossbows and bows. So for the crossbows, the best item I think you should be getting is the Space Ranger crossbow. You'll notice that a lot of Throne Room 11 like ancient set fighters will have this item equipped, just because it's such an amazing item at distributing extra damage. The other great crossbow is going to be the Rapid Fire crossbow. Now this one's a great option again because it has an increased amount of attack speed, basically meaning that you're going to be firing a lot quicker, and there is also an amulet out there that can increase the archer's attack speed at the same time. So both of these in combination mean you can have some insane attack speed for this type of fighter. Now if you're looking more for a bow than a crossbow, then I'd rate the Atlant bow to be one of the best choices you can get. This bow has the chance to deal an insane amount of damage. Obviously it's a bit of a chance by what you're going to be hitting, but if you're someone who likes taking a bit of a risk with the Space Ranger gear and this as a combination, you could be looking at some insane damages, but at the same time it doesn't always guarantee you're going to be winning because they're both based on chance. The next bow option would be the Turtle Swiftness bow. This means with this bow, if your fighters can deal enough damage to the 3 random enemies it picks, it basically means it will be increasing the bow wielder's health and damage for the rest of the fight, and that can be up to a maximum of 3 stacks. Basically meaning that the longer the fight goes, the better you're going to be. This can be especially useful if you're trying to do clan boss battles, but also at the same time for doing clan wars over long periods of time. Now when it comes to amulets, there are actually quite a good few options out there. The first one will be this Christmas decoration amulet, and the reason why this one is so good is because it can be literally used on any type of fighter. This shield can absorb 80,000 at base value at Throne Room 11 or even Throne Room 10, but when you put it into an ancient set it can go up to 200,000 as its max value, and this can still be used at any other Throne Room level for that extra protection. So I'd recommend this is the best amulet you can get from the dragon today, and I would be using this in your team if you can. In second place would be the Sacred Lotus Amulet. When any fighters die, the person wearing this amulet will increase their health and damage for 7 seconds, and it can stack up to 3 times, meaning if you're either winning or even losing the fight, this particular fight is just going to keep getting stronger and continuing throughout the fight. So again, this would be great with anyone with high damage, whether it's an archer or whether it's some sort of assassin, but this is going to be great for keeping them alive and dealing even more damage. The next amulet is going to be more for anyone that has a healer in their team, and even at Throne Room 11, if you've got a Dark Leader in your team, then this is going to be especially good for them in increasing their healing. I think once it's made into an ancient set it goes up to 22, maybe 25%, but I think it's 22, and basically this healing will be increased for everything, meaning their abilities as well, making this a great item if you want to do better in your gem base, clan wars, or typically any fight that lasts more than the first 20 seconds. Moving on to the rings, and the first one would be the missing component ring. Now with this one, each time the ring wearer hits the enemy, it basically poisons them for 20,000 damage, and their attack speed and damage is reduced by 10% per second, and basically effects wear off over 1.5 seconds. This makes this item amazing if you got the Space Ranger crossbow, considering you're going to be hitting 2 people at the same time guaranteed. Now this can still be useful for pretty much any type of fighter, but I recommend putting it on someone with high damage like a Legionnaire, Assassin, or even a Storm set really, but mainly your archers will be the best people to use them on. And again, this can be used at Throne Room 11 onwards or at Throne Room 10 and below. It's a fantastic little ring to be using. A common ring you've probably seen many times before, and that'll be the Star of Seas ring. Now this would be very useful for keeping a particular fighter alive and dealing that extra damage at the same time. This is more preferable to people that are Throne Room 10 and below, but it's still effective at any Throne Room level. I'd recommend trying to use this on a fighter with good health or damage. Either one doesn't matter, but again archers would probably be more preferable with this case. You can still use them on your assassins or just pure tanks, but it does give them an extra bit of damage and health at the same time. But this should be used again in your team, just like the missing component ring. Now the last one, the Ancient Treasure Ring, is going to be very specific to what you want it to be. For myself, I've got it on my Dark Leader as it increases their max health, and it helps with all the other abilities of them bursting back damage. Now for yourself, you might want to use it on someone that has the Rapid Fire Crossbow, as it increases their attack speed by 20% for the first 8 seconds. I wouldn't really recommend to have it on a warrior unless you're going to be using on a storm, as I don't really find that the dodge increase is going to be worth it compared to the other 2 amounts for the mage or the archer. But again, this ring is still going to be a great item, but I think it's third on the list compared to the other 2. Right, so now we're down to artifacts and then talking a little bit about the runes, but before we do, make sure you give this video a like, as it was a bit of a rush and difficult for me to get this video done for you guys, so hopefully you appreciate this video coming out. So the first artifact would be the 1000 Petals of Soraka. This item is going to be more specific for people that are Throne Room 10 and below, just because of the amount of damage it can be dealing to your enemies. Now at Throne Room 11 onwards, the higher the max health the enemy gets, this item will become worse. So the odds are most people go for percentage of healing items or resurrections to make sure their team keeps alive, whereas this item is going to be more specific for people that want to be trying to eliminate their enemies that have less max health. The second one will be called the Dragon's Eye. Now this one will be used by many different players, and that's because the ability is going to be so effective once you add the Rune of Transformation onto it. Without it, it is just a basic artifact, but with the Rune of Transformation, it allows you to resurrect one of your fighters every single time this artifact gets used, and there's no resurrection bans at the same time. So this item is going to be great for not only burst damage by using the enemy fighters, but also for yourself in resurrecting one of your fighters every 15 seconds. Now this last one is the Phoenix Egg, and this one is only specific to Throne Room 10 and below. The reason for this is because the damage that it can actually do at Throne Room 11 onwards just really doesn't match the amount of max health people can have, and the damage just starts to fall off. But at Throne Room 10 and below, like I've mentioned before, the max health is going to be lower, meaning this item can deal an insane amount of damage, especially if the enemy don't have their hero yet, so make sure you get this item if you have the lower Throne Room levels. So when it comes to buying runes, should you actually be spending thousands of diamonds just to buy a single room. I've sold one of my runes just to see how much it would cost, and at Thermum 11, if it is the same for everyone else, it is 14,000 to buy one single rune. So normally the answer would be no, since you can earn most of them in the next rune event. Some will be gone however, making this a great alternative, but the only ones I would actually recommend trying to pay for would firstly be the Rune of Flame. This attached to anyone with a crossbow can have amazing ability to do a lot of damage to the enemy team. You could also use this on someone using a bow for some very good damage as well, and that is up to you, but I just prefer it being on a crossbow. Secondly, if you do choose to go for the Dragon's Eye artifact, you will need the Rune of Transformation to make it really effective. Otherwise, it's just a standard artifact until you can get the rune attached, and from there you've got an amazing item on your hands. The next rune would be the Rune of Tenacity. Now this rune is key to making the Power of the Sea playmail any good, but even if you don't have this particular armour, it can still boost any of your tank's armour stats, so this will always be a good addition to your team. Last on the list will be the Rune of Wisdom. This should only be paid for if you have the Ancient Wisdom wand, as this will greatly improve the weapon's damage, but adding this rune to any of your mage weapons will still be a benefit, but the Ancient Wisdom wand should be the main reason why you want to go for this rune. Anyways, thank you for watching. I hope this has been helpful. I know it's been a bit of a rush, but luckily there's still a little bit of time left with the Red Dragon, so again, if you have any questions, make sure you leave them down below. Maybe I didn't explain something properly, maybe you got some other top picks, leave the comments and I will try and get back to you. So yes, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.